Welcome to My View from the Piano Bench. We do this on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. here on my Joe Holt's Notes YouTube channel, in addition to Piano for My Friends on Thursday evenings. Thank you to all of you who support and encourage me via the links available on the support page of my website. You'll find the link to that page in the video description. So, lately I have been talking about particular tunes to give me a window into just going different places, and places I might not think of in terms of topics, and I can just touch a bunch of stuff and maybe talk about the same thing from a different angle, that I talked about before, and all of that, and I hope it's interesting. And so you'll see the topic is A Couple of Joes. Well, that's actually a tune, and it's the name of my first musical group in high school with brothers Joe and Paul Mediri. And it occurred to me to talk about that today because this week, the week that this is first seen on YouTube anyway, is when I'll be rejoining the band for the first time in over 14 years on one of their festivals. Back starting in the 80s, maybe? No, 90s, 2000, I don't know. No, not that long ago. Late 90s, early 2000s, perhaps. They very quickly picked up steam in the National Traditional Jazz Festival circuit, and that really helped put them on the map. They were already very well on the map for all that they did in Atlantic City, and they were known by a lot of people. A lot of people followed them. And even today, even though they haven't, worked Atlantic City, and that culture is very different now in many years, if they do a concert locally, people show up. And they're not even really big self-promoters anymore. They're just going about their thing, but they really established a reputation. And it went national on them. And I was playing with them at the time, but that first festival that they were offered, I had a schedule conflict, and the band they went with, that first festival, was just the band they stuck with. And my history with the Mediri brothers, where I've been going in and out of their band. We've had our own thing going on, but lately it's certainly back in, both professionally and personally. I won't do all their festivals. They have another pianist in Florida who will do some. And who knows what I'll do, but I'm doing this one, and it was 14 years ago. Actually, would be more than 14, because it was 2008 the last time I was in Pismo. So it's kind of weird. I'm going to go back and be the new guy in the band, and the old guy, the guy who was there first, 50 years ago almost. Crazy. So many of you know the story. Joe and I, and then soon thereafter, we got Paul involved. We're very influenced by the Benny Goodman Trio, and as teenagers in high school, our first musical group was basically a Benny Goodman Trio kind of thing. And much to Paul's dismay, we called the group A Couple of Joes, right? Not meaning 2 cups of coffee, but maybe that would have been appropriate. And so, we were all fledgling musicians. I was the least fledgling because I had played all my life. They didn't start playing until they were 16 years old. But they caught on really fast. And we would just sit in, Joe and I especially, would just sit in the practice room. And I'd just play stuff, and he would improvise over it, and we would figure things out and have basic little tunes. And we had, I think, one, don't ask me where the title came from, but one little silly tune was called I Left My Contacts in the Dryer. Another was Joe's ability to mimic all kinds of animals on the clarinet. Turkeys or chickens and birds and bees and all that stuff. And we kind of put something together, we call it Barnyard. We haven't done those in forever. But the one that stuck So one that sort of became our theme song, and I'm going to tell you, it's not a serious tune. It's just something really silly, and I just sat down, did it one day, and Joe played along, after looking at his fingering chart to figure out what to do because he was still brand new at the thing. And I think part of the reason that we keep it going is just for the sort of comedic value and to make Paul roll his eyes. So when we recorded the first CD together, the CD called Joe Holt Presents the Mediri Brothers Avalon in 1998 or 9, maybe 1998. That started out as being simply a trio CD, and it morphed into being a combination of trio and full band, their sextet. But we didn't ask Paul. We just made sure the tape was running, and I just started playing, and Joe joined me. And Paul had no choice but to play along, and it's on the recording. So I fully expect that nothing's going to have changed in the last 14 years. Later this week, if you watch this when it first runs, out in Pismo, that either Joe or I or maybe even Paul, in fact, we all will do it at some point. It's going to stick that in a quote somewhere. And since the guys in the band are the same guys that's been there forever, with the exception of the bass player, who I haven't met, but they used him when he travels. When they travel, he's not local. But he'll catch on pretty quick. From what I know a little bit about him, he'll probably start doing it too. So, I hesitate to present it as a tune, but we presented it as a tune. We recorded it as a tune, and it's just a silly little thing, and I'm going to play it. And then that will allow me to talk about all sorts of things, I'm sure. Something like that. Have not given any thought to playing that tune in a long time, except when I hang around the Mediris, which is becoming increasingly a thing. So there is definite talk, serious talk between Joe, Paul, and I to put together a 50th anniversary tour for the trio, probably next year. You could argue, should that be in 2024, 2025? We met in 2024, but they had just started playing instruments. And it was in 2025 that we actually started, not 2025, 1975, that we started playing together, right? So there's absolutely some momentum with this. And when I talk about, excuse me, leaving my musical culture when I was 14 years old, or leaving my culture in general and immersing myself in the whole Benny Goodman Trio bag and everything related to that, not looking back, thank you, Joe Mediri, or I blame Joe Mediri, either one. But it set me on a fun path. So the Mediris knew me as somebody who could play ragtime music. So I didn't have a really serious piano teacher until I was working to audition for college, just a few months before. You know, as a classical piano major, I picked up a serious teacher, and I've been blessed, fortunate, lucky to have some wonderful classical instruction along the way. But in my piano lessons, whoa, hey look, I'm playing it kind of the way it was written. How'd that happen? There, that was like uncharacteristically straight for me. I'm proud of myself. And even then, when I was early teenager, even before, I wasn't very good at playing things straight. But that's the only musical experience I had. My teacher would encourage me to improvise, but he just kept putting classical pieces in front of me. And the thing about ragtime music is, if you're going to put it in a category, it's not the category of jazz. It's classical. It's written note for note to be played note for note. And, it has the syncopated rhythms that became the standard in popular music very quickly. That's kind of where it started. But it also is structured, European sensibilities, harmonies, the whole thing. And because it's note for note and you can read it, and kind of learn it, by, as I say, putting a jigsaw puzzle together, which is a lot of how the classical music is put together. Classical teachers will give it to their students when they're ready to, kind of reward them or whatever. And everybody likes ragtime. Reasonably straight. I haven't tried to play that one in a long time. But the Mediri brothers, Joe and Paul, of course, met me right away because I was in the band program when they joined up at Triton Regional High School. But they also knew what I did, that I played ragtime music. And that was close enough to the 30s style of like Teddy Wilson for Joe to target me and give me all these records and say, listen to this. And that's what really got me started. And Paul tells a story, and I don't remember this, but apparently before they started playing music, I participated in a talent show at school. And I think I played ragtime, and I think I played a version of Flight of the Bumblebee, which I haven't looked at in decades, called Bumble Boogie. I should get that out again. But that's even for me, it's a little bit too much shtick at this point. But oh, am I full of shtick? But I just allow that to happen. So yeah, maybe some point. You know, it's funny. I do like involuntarily quote that once in a while, but more often, something like that will come out of me. Or my favorite goofball thing that happened involuntarily. Uh, Back when I was on the Madeira festivals between 2006 and 2008, and we're playing this barn burner, swing tune, under a tent, and there were different performance tents, and I started into a quote. I watched the quote happen, right, as we're playing this tune, and like I knew what it was, and it probably was beyond the point that I could have stopped it. I decided to just let it go and let it play out. And really loudly from the bandstand, I just called out, "Oh no!" And I'm like, the bridge from "Close to You" from the Carpenters, yeah. And yeah, so the improvisation thing was absolutely always there, and that's what Joe and I did. And I don't remember how I played ragtime music back when I was 13 and 14. I don't know if I actually tried to noodle and improvise on it like I do now, like for Maple Leaf Rag. My best not to actually do a super sticky on purpose quote, because for that one, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I digress, and I think digression is going to be the theme for the rest of the hour. So that little tune became this vehicle for improvisation, and Joe and I were figuring all sorts of things out. I remember there was a Benny Goodman recording of Octopus Garden, the Beatles tune. They did it like in a Dixieland band, which you were allowed to say that. Been a long time for that one. Yep. And it never, in my current sort of, environment, there are Beatles tunes that I like to do, but that one hasn't risen to the place yet where I've wanted to do it. But I should play around with that. There was another tune, Look what they've done to my song, which is like, yeah, look what we just did to that. But mostly we were just playing all the old good. Or, let me see. Right now, but and by that time Paul was playing drums with us. He picked up the vibes later, and when we recorded the Avalon CD, I think he was playing the vibes for 3 or 4 years at that time, and yeah, we all have our little distractions with instruments and such. So back to a couple of Joes. And I didn't think of it at the time, but oh my goodness. It's like a couple of Joes do the alley cat, right? And you know, back in 1970, whatever this was, 4, 5, 6, the alley cat was a thing. I think that came out in 66. And in fact, that was one of the pieces of sheet music my piano teacher gave to me. With a picture of whatever guy, Bent Fabric or something. But he kind of looked like Frank Ocean. I remember that on the, on the sheet. Not even a morph. Same tune, oh good grief. There we go. A little a little fun improvisation. There's probably no accident that I put it in the key of C, you know, which is an easy key to do stuff like that in. And even though I was a little bit self-deprecating or something with regard to this, and that's not really a serious tune, and it isn't, but it doesn't mean I'm averse to playing it. And this goes in the category of that a tune is a tune, and no matter how simple or how complicated it is, and it's a vehicle. You know, if you watched last week, you know, I talked about the song Always, which is a lovely tune and not like semi-sticky like a couple of Joes, but at least 10,000 times I've performed that tune, not without exaggeration, and it never gets old. You know, there are guys who get sick of playing tunes. But one of the tunes that one particular jazz musician just came out and told me, don't call this tune, I'm sick of it. And I know he's not the only one. do. Just like that, because it's simple, it actually has a certain degree of complexity to it, and is a tune that is very often used in the front edge of learning to play jazz because of the particular device, the 2/5. It's all over that tune. But might come back to, tune's lame. It's, well, a tune that every jazz musician plays has 2 notes in the melody, just 2. Even one note samba has more than 2 notes. But C jam blues just has 2 notes. And 4 chords. Whatever. So no matter how simple something is, you can still improvise it, or improvise on it. Speaking of simple. All right. So here's a little detour, but I'll make it related. One of the things that serious musicians, particularly like jazz improvisers, will do, and I do this to an extent, more so now than I used to, but still not to the extent that other jazz musicians do. So I'm a little less fluent in this department. And that's take tunes and play them on all 12 keys. Every year, until recently anyway, I would and so on. 12 days of Christmas, 12 keys. My routine right now is to have a key of the kind of month. And I do all sorts of things in that particular key. Currently, it's the key of E. And now my little project to see how much, this is the new approach, just trying it out, that I can, over time, get comfortable with playing that 2-part invention in C in the key of E. Okay? So that's kind of something we do. But a couple of Joes is simple enough that I should be able to move around any key, right? That's that. Have B flat. E flat. A flat. Well, I'll embarrass myself sometimes. B, my least favorite key. E. A. Look at D. Did I do all 12 already? I'm back to C. So, if you're somebody who does play music at whatever level, and you want to develop a sense, the I would say a sense of improvisation, a connection to being able to improvise in the same way that we improvise our speech. Because I'm not reading any notes, right? Uh, so we don't approach communication the way music is often approached. We rehearse a specific thing and then we replicate it. Or in jazz, we rehearse like patterns from scales and chords and stuff, and then incorporate them, into our solos and piece them together and stuff. Uh, Neither is really the natural approach. The natural approach is to just go with the vocabulary that you've been able to appropriate inside. And you could say that about the jazz instruction or the method of doing that. But really it's about not having to think about it. However you get there, not having to think about it. So here's something to think about. Did I just say don't think about something? Anyway, so I just did that little phrase. In B flat. Now I'll do it in C. I'll do it one more key. I'll do it in D. Oh. So I played it in 3 different keys. And so now I'll ask the question, did I play 3 different things or did I play the same thing 3 times? Well, let's take off the table the potential that, I may have like arranged a couple of the notes differently or, did a different version in a chord or something. And let's, for the sake of this discussion, say that every single note I played was the same in all the keys, which is going to be close anyway. Same thing in all 3 times or 3 different things, and it depends on how you look at it. And the improviser is going to look at it as the same thing, not 3 different things. But if you are limited, or I was going to say limited in just reading music, or I would say highly skilled in reading music, therefore that's your go-to, it's not my go-to, you would have to read 3 separate pieces of sheet music. Unless you happen to have the skill that a very small number of people do, that you could actually sight transpose from, note for note written music. So that would be 3 different things, because all the labels are different. Or the same thing 3 times. And when it becomes the same thing 3 times, you're hearing the same thing. So here's the thing about improvisation, that when I... For whatever reason, that's what came out of me. And it really wouldn't have mattered what key I played that in. Now, I just came across a few minutes ago saying that I don't practice in, 12 keys. What I mean is I don't, do the jazz thing and like make sure I can fluently play Donna Lee and giant steps in all 12 keys and all that stuff. But I mean, certainly I'm familiar with the with the different keys, right? and so when I started playing it, I didn't give conscious thought to what key I was going to be in, and it turns out that I was in the key of F. But I just played the first note, and then I can hear. And this is actually a complicated thing for me to say how I hear, because I don't actually hear. I do hear, but like the next note is this far away. Let's take that phrase. Now, if I was reading this from sheet music, speaking of sheet music, I'll talk about this in a minute if I don't forget. Right? Then I would have to be reading C, F, C, A, B flat, C, F. You can see why I struggle to say the names of the notes, because I don't think that way when I improvise. But instead, I know the next note is that far away. The interval of a perfect fourth. The first couple notes of, which nobody plays anymore at weddings. But that was always, here comes the bride, was how you learn to recognize a perfect fourth. And that's right. And so in the improvisation, I'm playing like I talk. Like I know the words enough that I don't have to think about them. And if I know I don't have the right word, I can wait just a little bit longer, until exactly the right word comes along to solve the conundrum of what is the right word. And I just pulled conundrum out of the air to have a word, So, yeah, you can do that. You can arrange that. But really what you want to do is say whatever you're going to say on purpose and let it find itself naturally because it's inside of you. And that was B flat, right? Now, a couple of Joes took me all over the planet, but a couple of Joes, I guess I was right in calling it not a serious tune because I'm not really inclined to analyze it as a tune so much. It's a 1 chord, 5 chord, C, G7, right? So, a couple of Joes is more of a window into my relationship with the Madeira band. So, like I said, I haven't done a festival in about 14 years. And a lot of what they do in terms of their arrangement for their sextet are written out arrangements with defined parts. And you might have 4-part harmony going between vibes, the clarinet, the guitar, and the piano in this case. And so I have all these charts with single line notes. Right? And the thing is, when you're reading a single line note that's a harmony part, it may be really weird, and it's not going to come up now. And I'm not a good sight reader, especially at a fast tempo. So I'm sitting here getting ready for the festival, working all this out. But another thing that we've done, which is cool, when Paul and I reconnected, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to be in the band, and you have Pat Mercury playing guitar in a particular gig with a 4-piece rhythm section, which is a wonderful luxury. And we have a vibes player in the band, Paul. So why don't we do some shearing stuff? Right? And so Paul and I got together a couple of times during COVID and wrote out some improvised lines to some of these tunes, and this is one of the ones I have to look at, and this one I better play because I kind of wrote it. Let me see. And you can see I kind of can't play it. That's terrible. Practice, you got to slow down, right? Yeah, and actually, that's not going to be hard for me to get back. And I'm sure we're going to do the shearing things. I think there was another one. Oh, look at that ragtime thing. Yeah, Dancing on the Ceiling was another one we did. And it sounds really cool with the guitar and the vibes. And and all that. Let me see if I remember this one. I actually did look at this the other day. Dancing on the Ceiling. Oh, look, I got a little credit on their chart. Arranged Holt Maderi. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, Paul is good with the software and the printed stuff, and I'm never going to get there. Old dog, new tricks, not happening. But he, somewhere, in fact, I think I know where it is. I have my handwritten little improvised line that we're not improvising, we're all playing together. Let's see if I got it. Something like that, right? So, cool stuff from the Maderi band. I'll tell you, some of these charts, I've done a couple of concerts with them, and some of these were thrown in front of me, and I just botched them completely. Get Happy, and oh my goodness, Jubilee Stomp, Watch Out. I remember this chart of Maria back from the Showboat days, but it was handwritten, and Joe still writes stuff by hand. Joe and I are kindred spirits that way. But Paul has committed them to the charts. But I was looking at this already, and man, play this up the tempo because it's some weird lines. Now Maria is, how do I stop? But I believe it's the John Kirby Sextet version from the mid or late 40s. And all I have to do for this is just play the single line, but it goes so fast and it's like so strange, and I have to really slow it down. Right. Now here's when I'm going to slow this down. I don't even know how to finger that. Now, and I think the melody, this shows up with playing clarinet. However it goes melodically at that point. So yeah, so this is my pile. This is like the first pile, and I'm running behind, shedding my my tunes. Now I did say that Joe Maderi and I are kind of on the same page, whatever I said, ride in the same wavelength. And that's the thing that we discovered in high school. Joe is one of those very few musicians at the very top of the radar scale with me. And there are other musicians that I work with. Sharon Sable comes to mind. The Blossom Deer Project. There's absolutely radar there. Also with Beth McDonald and a few other people. But maybe those three, Beth and Sharon and Joe Maderi, are the three biggest, like, radar, intuitive, feeling it together. All manifest in different ways. Speaking of Sharon Sable, the Blossom Deer Project, we have the physical CDs. We're going to get the promotion campaign started. For those who've been following us, it's taken us a long time to do this, much longer than we planned, and you might think, they're not serious. We're very serious. And just yesterday being when I recorded this, which is not when you're watching it, it's a few days before, I organized 4 videos into a Blossom Deer Project YouTube channel. So you might want to look at that. And the thing that I was reconnecting with, especially looking at a concert that Sharon, along with Beth, did for me at the Mainstay for Mainstay Monday, and at my First Friday with Joe Holt at the Mainstay last year. The two tunes I posted, both Down with Love and Once Upon a Summertime, duo with Sharon, look them up. Down with Love, Sharon Sable, Joe Holt. You can just search it in YouTube, or Once Upon a Summertime, Sharon Sable, Joe Holt. And what you'll see is a lock in connection, particularly with Once Upon a Summertime, that's rubato. But I was watching the end, because I wanted to look through and make sure I wanted to post them before I ripped them out of the file. And at the end of Once Upon a Summertime, you'll see, as I sort of like do this improvisation, wistful thing, it just kind of goes off and fades away at the end, which is how we, have arranged it. You can see her moving with everything I'm doing, because it's connected inside of her to what I'm doing, and moving rhythmically, even though I'm like slowing down as I go, and which is actually something that I cultivate, and that's another subject I could get to with this. You can just watch and see that connection. That's the kind of connection that I have with Joe, and instantly we just kind of think on the same page. And what I've learned at this point in my life, way down the road from when it started, is that's ability to feel this stuff and do this is, obviously, a gift, in that it's a temperamental inclination. We all have gifts. We tend to overemphasize, that some people's gifts in that they're visibly seen and people are entertained by them, sports figures, athletes, musicians, whatever. But we all have temperamental inclinations that will manifest themselves as gifts if we put them in the right place. Totally persuaded about that. And the temperamental inclination, I'm going to put it that way, to feel something and play it rather than think and play it, I've learned in recent years, is actually something to practice toward. And I've adopted Kenny Werner's language here, practice to the space. And I watched a lecture that Kenny did to non-musicians, some Google Talk sort of thing. And he had everybody go through a very basic, meditation thing. Close your eyes, notice your breathing. If you have another thought, notice that, but then look away from it and just be in this sort of space. And with the eyes closed, which is important. And then he said, okay, now you know what the space is. But, when you're trying to do something, that involves like all this mechanics, to learn things and things you think about playing music, or, be a great football player with all of the things you have to remember about every play and all of that. You need to be able to do it. You want to do it at a really high level in that spot. And this is a good illustration. I'm glad I saw what Kenny did. In that spot that you are when you meditate, or when you pray, if you're in that receiving place, right? And that's actually something that you can practice toward. And you just kind of let it go. And as Kenny says, get over your fear of sounding bad. And one of the things that I'm developing, and I'm just really going off here, but hopefully you'll find it interesting. And at some point, maybe I'll be able to really get a handle on verbiage with this, to put some of it in writing, is that what intuitive improvisers are doing, and what I'm doing, is working out of our peripheral vision as opposed to what's right in front of us. Because what we notice is right in front of us is what we're thinking about. And that's always been the struggle, and it's a struggle with all musicians, and this is what Kenny talks about. Because when you're thinking about it, you're chained to yourself. And when you're able to let go of that, you're able to find the deeper channel that connects you to things beyond what you can think about, if that makes sense. And the first part of my practicing every day is to that space, to play freely. And eventually, if I'm really letting it go, eventually it coalesces into something. And eventually I'm playing Ain't Misbehaving or something. But I'm playing it out of my peripheral vision at that point. And that's what you want to cultivate. Because the harder you try, the further away it gets. Because you don't want to try. You want to develop, the skill, the vocabulary, the familiarity to be able to do it. And then I'll put the metronome on. And this is something that I'm not inclined to try to demonstrate because I have to really be in that space to do it. And right now I'm doing something else. I'm involved in talking to you. But I'll put the metronome on and I won't be consciously aware of it. I'll let myself improvise. And then I'll discover that some slow tempo, whatever it is. Typically, I'll get it down to somewhere between like 5 and 15. And I'm playing and I realize that I'm connected with the metronome, even if I'm playing rubato, which means out of time. But it's not like a set thing where like the first beat of every measure it's clicking. It may click on 1 and it may click on 3, or it may click on the end of 2, but then it cycles back to 1. And, I get in this larger space, because there's so much knowledge up here that I don't have. There's so many things that are befuddling, but if I don't have to rely on this, I can find things that I could never find if I were looking for them. And that's how, for me, and nobody's taught me how to do this, because I was kind of arriving at this before I read Kenny's book, Effortless Mastery. So I never even did the meditation exercises or anything like that. But I think I've got my path and I've got my way to do, but we just find how to, what I call open the space. And this is what I mean by opening the space. And lately on gigs, if I'm challenged, because it's not really there, I'm trying now with some success is to look at something random and allow my thoughts to go there, and all of a sudden I'm free again. And all of this is related to a couple of Joes because that's the place where I interact with Joe. I remember when I started working down the Showboat, and I was doing that, I got that gig because Joe recommended me to the agent, because they were looking for a piano player to do the older style music in a new station they had set up in their hotel lobby. There were 3 shifts. And, that was during one of the periods where Joe Paul and I were not interacting. But that didn't stop him from referring me, and that was great. And that connected me back with them. And I remember one day, I think it was at the Showboat. I think we met early because he was playing in the band while I was playing at the lobby, and there was a room with a piano. I don't know where that room was, but I'm pretty sure it was at the Showboat. And we hadn't played together forever. I said, let's just play free. Now, of course, Joe's this Benny Goodman clarinet guy, and I'm this old school, stride-ish guy. Right? And bam. Just bam. If I'm trying to do that with somebody who is thinking about it and like sort of planning what to do, that pulls me into thinking. Yeah, and that's actually the next sort of like challenge for myself, the goal to get to in music or in conversation. You know, like there are some people who are very cerebral in their analysis of things and very forceful in their opinions and want to tell you this, and I can go there too, and then I get drawn in, but it messes with my emotions, you know, and it stops me from listening. That's the thing. It stops me from listening because now I'm thinking about, well, how am I going to respond to this? No, 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 it's over here, you know, and it's like I never want to be in that place. You know, so one of the things that I'm really purposing to do, and sometimes I pull it off, and sometimes people notice I pull it off, which is really cool, is in a conversation, you know, as much as I want to jump in, as much as it's like making my part of my brain boil, you know, go with the peripheral vision and just listen. And then don't respond until something comes up in that peripheral vision that is not what I'm driven to think about. And that's going to be more, whatever that is more important and more significant than what I want to say because it's my opinion, right? Makes sense? And now, not that Joe Madeira doesn't have opinions. Oh my goodness. And not that I don't have opinions. Or not that Sharon Sable or Beth McDonald don't have opinions. But all of us understand this, and you could call it all sorts of things. Zen is a word. That there is this space you get into. Where Beth really gets into it is as a songwriter. Right? And total Zen, and I am really admiring how that works for her. She doesn't get so much that way in stage performance. It's more of a hurdle for her. We're all different. Sharon and I can get that way in stage, but Joe Madeira, yeah, it's just like you're doing something and then you wake up a little later and say, what just happened? You know, like if you're immersed in something and you lose track of time, but you're actually playing music while you do it. That's the cool stuff. And I'm motivated to keep talking about this as relates to Joe Madeira and I, or a couple of Joes, because I think this is something that we all can benefit from in music or in anything else. That you want to find that flow state. You want to figure out how you get there. And I'm just really, really blessed and grateful that I have this piano. Maybe not this physical piano, although it's fine, but I have the piano, and probably I will never get the book written, but I'm still going to pick at it, called Everything I Ever Needed to Know in Life I Learned at the Piano. Everything. And I actually found a document in my computer the other day from some time ago when I proposed to myself chapter titles for the book. And I remember one chapter title just says, wait. Wait. Because patience is the key to everything. In life, sometimes patience is like suspending yourself for, in the particular area you're talking about, for days or weeks or months or even years. And just detaching and then watching it come together. The cool thing about music is that it happens very quickly. It doesn't take days or months or years. It may feel 2 seconds that you're waiting may feel like days or months or years because you're aware of it. But playing music is a great training ground for patience. To wait until you until you know exactly where it wants to be, and you let it happen. Now, I guess you could also wait until, what's that note I'm trying to hear? Where is it? There it is. But I don't think that's the right approach. It's certainly not the one for me. So let me just check this. Yep, I'm on track. So I hope that some of these thoughts were interesting or helpful, and I certainly didn't mean not to bring Paul Mederi into this, because I have my own wonderful rapport with Paul Mederi as well. But I think a couple of Joes is just sort of symbolic of that radar that Joe and I have, and that the Paul recognizes too. And he's like, okay, you two, you go. I'll hang here. I'm playing drums. You guys go. And he's a much more cerebral player and uses his head. And Joe's like, just goes, and I just go. So anyway, maybe next week I'll have something to report from the festival. I hesitate to say this. I don't know what's going to happen, if I'm going to have a chance, or how much time I'm actually going to have, and how much wacky hijinks are going to take over. But I'll have my phone camera with me, and I may do some things out there and try to put together my view from the piano bench from Pismo, which will be fun. So anyway, from one of the Joes. And there it is. So, hope to see you tomorrow for Piano for My Friends. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your support and encouragement. Keep in touch. Check what's going on the website. My show's page. Oh my goodness, things are happening. So thanks again. See you soon, I hope.